Alright, different video from me today. I want to share with you the biggest downsides of losing weight, getting in killer shape, getting hard. Because yeah, believe it or not, it's not all fun and games as much as the pros outweigh the cons. And I want to, of course, encourage people to reclaim their health and fitness. At the same time, I want to share with you today a list of 7 downsides, 7, let's call them negative side effects that you can encounter on this journey that are actually completely normal, natural part of this process, but they really do shock you the first time you start noticing them. So I just want to validate if you're experiencing one or even all 7 of these different downsides. I just want to validate these things and tell you, look, these aren't inherently red flags. Don't let them discourage you. They're completely normal. We carry on. We trust this process anyway. Let's cut to the chase then. Downside number 1. This one will hurt your feelings. It's totally part and parcel of the process, totally normal, but it will guaranteed upset you the first couple of times it happens. Your success will actually annoy a lot of the people in your personal life, your friends and family members, the most cherished people in your life. You will be startled by how they only have something negative to say. And this is completely baffling because, rightly so, in your mind, you're thinking, hold on, I'm doing something so beneficial. I'm taking back control of my health. I feel the best I've felt in years. Surely anyone that loves me is going to be happy for me. Oh, you naive little thing, you. If only it was that straightforward. If only relationships work this way. And of course, hopefully you do have plenty of unconditional support. A lot of people saying, wow, you look amazing. You look incredible. Have you lost weight? Teach me how. What have you been doing? Good for you. You're looking in killer shape right now. Respect. Keep up the good work. Hopefully you do have that sort of proverbial cheerleading. But you may find in equal measure a bunch of people that only, right, they don't even follow it with a compliment. They only have something negative to say. But why are you changing? You don't need to lose weight. You looked fine before. Well, it's kind of masked as a compliment, isn't it? But you looked fine before. What do you mean you're not having pizza with me? I used to love doing that with you. Not even an acknowledgement of how fantastic it is that you've lost 30 pounds, you're off statins for the first time in a decade, your blood work is impeccable, and the cholesterol is finally through the floor. None of that, just only negative things to say. Or just the avoidance of the absolute elephant in the room, which is you've totally changed in the last 6 months. They don't even say anything nice about it. Now, to play devil's advocate, just because you perceive, and we should do this, just because you perceive someone's comment as negative, it doesn't mean it actually is negative or necessarily coming from a bad place. But still, we have to say that, still, you'll just be utterly amazed. You'll be utterly amazed at how you doing something you feel is so beneficial to you actually annoys people, seems to rub people up the wrong way. They're actually quite mean about it, and it will get you. The reframe here, again, completely normal. I'm telling you, this is part and parcel of the journey. This has happened to me many, many times over and over. It's fine. We all experience this. So let's validate it first of all. But the reframe is, believe it or not, it's not actually about you. In many cases, and I don't know that the person saying this to you is even aware of this. I think a lot of this stuff is happening subconsciously, unconsciously. But in many cases, hey, Ryan, your success is shining, holding a mirror back up to me and my lack of progress with my health. And I'm looking at my rolls of fat and I'm seeing the great shape you're in. And to be honest, it pisses me off. And again, this is not conscious thought necessarily. Sometimes it can be, but this is all happening unconsciously, subconsciously, I would suggest. And so I don't even think people know they're being negative to you, but they can't help but the insecurity, the competitiveness, the inferiority is coming out. And again, I say perception of inferiority. You are doing nothing. You're not preaching, you're not being competitive with them, you're not trying to make them feel bad, but it does make them feel bad. Seeing your growth implies that they have no excuses. And this is what bothers people, especially in group settings where maybe you're the only one getting fit. Shout out to the client that I just spoke about this to. That's when it can really feel like, oh my God, everyone hates me all of a sudden for doing something that actually is changing my life in such a positive way. This is nuts. This is weird. And it doesn't mean it's true, by the way, that they do hate you. But that's the point I'm trying to make is it might feel really personal that they're not acknowledging in your success in the way that you hoped, but it isn't actually about you. And that's the big reframe. But yeah, downside number 1 is, surprisingly, yes, you'll get lots of support, but this will also annoy a lot of the people in your personal life, and it does make you evaluate. But be kind And, well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I would suggest being kind and generous with this and giving them the bandwidth, because really here, I think this is more about them than it is you. And your progress is shining a light back onto them, rather than it being like, I hate Ryan because he's got abs now. It's more so, damn, he's got abs now, I don't. Ugh. It's more about them than it is you. Downside number 2 of weight loss, getting in killer shape, you might notice you feel the cold like a little baby now. And there's a couple of reasons for this, but the main one is rather obvious, just insulation. You can think of fat as the thermal padding, quote unquote, especially the subcutaneous fat that sits right below the skin. And so if you're working on leaning down and reducing the amount of fat on your persons, on your body, of course you're going to feel that draft just a little bit more. You're going to feel the ambient temperature, even just the surrounding air will feel a little bit chillier to you. It's totally normal. It doesn't mean something is wrong. It doesn't mean there's something deficient necessarily in your diet. Of course, if you suddenly are really sensitive to cold, that doesn't mean it's not a bad thing either. I want to be careful about being, sorry for the double negative, but I want to be careful about being 100% prescriptive with this, but I do want to say, no, this is a normal, very natural side effect of just leaning down. You're producing less heat also, storing less heat, losing more heat when you do generate heat. And so, yeah, really, of course, it's very natural that you do feel the cold a little bit more. So layer up, and yeah, you do kind of get used to this, but it is like, this is one you can't really work around all that much without going and then putting on pounds and pounds of body fat again, which is not the appropriate solution. So it is just a side effect of this process that I think you just have to kind of swallow the proverbial pill off and say, all right, well, this is the case. I'm lean now and I'm not used to that and I haven't been that way for a while. So yeah, I'm going to feel the cold a little more, but it's not inherently a red flag. 3, you may well notice that the better shape you get in, the more internal pressure that you have to keep looking good, and your standards improve, and the way that you analyze your own nutrition now under the microscope in a way that you didn't years ago, that can feel like a heavy burden sometimes. It would be nice and refreshing to be able to switch off diet brain for once in a while and enjoy the cocktail glass of wine or almond croissant, is maybe what you think about this, but you can't always seem to shake it. And look, this internal pressure as a result of your newfound standards as you've fixed your habits in recent years and months, this is overwhelmingly a positive thing. Let's be clear about this. This is a massive advantage. But just the idea that it's always there, bubbling away, internal narrative, and the way that maybe you put all of this attention on the 1 or 2 mistakes that you as a human being, even in great shape, still make with your diet in a week now, on a weekly basis now, versus doing those things every day 6 months ago when you were 30 pounds heavier and you didn't seem to give a damn then, right? Ignorance is bliss, you didn't care then. They actually bother you more now, even though it's in the context of you having a much better overall diet now. But this really does bother you, and being able to remove that internal pressure sometimes would feel like some relief. This is sometimes what we experience. Again, reframe here is, as I say, this is overwhelmingly a good thing. Be grateful that you care, that you have this new standard that you've developed, that you're bothered by the mistakes you make in your diet now, that you do care enough to really analyze your nutrition, and to, by extension, we haven't even talked about it yet, but by extension, exercise as well, that you care that lying on the settee all evening when you know you could be out doing some activity, and that's really good for you, both on and off the scale, of course. Be grateful that that does actually bother you. Even though it would be nice to just chill out that narrative sometimes, be grateful that it does bother you, I think is what I would suggest for the reframe here. But yeah, there can be this now internal pressure to look good, and sometimes maybe you wake up a little bit bloated because last night, not that you had a cheat day, but you had some soy sauce, so lots of sodiums, kept lots of water in your system. Or ladies, it's the luteal phase of your menstrual cycle, you're in PMS, you're retaining a little bit more water, and you look just a little bit puffy and bloated. You're a pound or 2 heavier than your usual morning weight. This really bothers you in a way that it didn't when you were 30 pounds heavier. You have to zoom out, this is the reframe, and see the irony of it all, that just being slightly puffier now at your best self still looks and feels a million times better than your worst self 6 months ago, 1 year ago. That's the context. Even though you've got this juxtaposition now of that lean, chiseled, slim fit version of yourself. So when there's 1 or 2 mistakes, or you wake up feeling a little bit bloated or puffy one day, it's like, oh, it's doomsday, it's the end of the world. But that's only because you've got such a contrast now between that best version of yourself that it feels, oh, something's really off. Before, You looked way worse, calling a spade. I know it sounds superficial. You looked way worse. It never bothered you anyway. So just zooming out, seeing the whole journey and saying, all right, I'm having a bit of an off day, but my off day now is still a million times better than my best days years ago. Acknowledge all that progress. Downside number 4, this had to get a mention. This is part and parcel again of especially the fat loss, weight loss phases. It's hunger. Quite obviously, you're intentionally putting your body in a deficit of calories so that it goes through the stored body fat, converts that to fuel because it registers, oh, we're not getting all the calories that we need right now. And of course, you're doing that intentionally. That is fat burning, as people refer to it. That is very much the fat loss process that's happening in the body. And so, look, you can do lots of manipulation of your diet to best manage your hunger, like we've talked about in the hundreds of videos here. But at the same time, like, there's always going to be associated hunger in a calorie deficit. There's only so much you can finesse your diet, to improve the fiber content, follow a nutrient-rich diet so you get as much satisfaction and fullness per calorie that you possibly can. Have a balance of the macronutrients so you're getting the satisfaction benefits of each of the macronutrient in the different ways that they provide. Thinking very carefully about the composition of your meals to ensure that they provide ingredients that very much fill you up and provide lots of volume per individual calorie. Following, if you are in a fat loss phase, only a very small, moderate calorie deficit rather than a really aggressive one where you're flirting with lots of hunger. As I say, you can do lots of finessing with hunger. The body knows you're still in a calorie deficit ultimately. You can play around with meal scheduling and timing and maybe make the distribution of your calories every day a little bit different to best manage that hunger as well. So there are things you can do. You don't just have to accept hunger as part of this process, a huge amount of it, and just deal with that and just get over that. That's not necessarily what I'm saying, but to a degree that is actually the case that, look, this is what you're doing physiologically to yourself to try and lose fat. Kind of comes with the territory. There's always going to be a little bit of hunger here, but try as best you can to manipulate your diet to best satisfy that. But yeah, if you're hungry on this journey, it's not a red flag, doesn't mean something is wrong. But do investigate, because if your calorie deficit is too severe, too aggressive, the crash and burn is absolutely coming. You don't, and if you're anything like really rapid weight loss, hair loss, you notice your nails are really brittle, other negative side effects that might suggest calorie deficit, symptoms of calorie deficit being too aggressive. Anyway, those do need investigating. I want to be crystal clear, but a little bits of hunger here and there, it's very normal. That little hunger edge that a lot of people experience in a fat loss phase, that's totally normal. It's not a red flag, doesn't mean something is wrong. Keep trusting the process, keep going. Downside number 5, dealing with feelings, of course, of sacrifice and reconciling any self-talk around I'm missing out on the habits that I used to engage in, that I used to quite enjoy, frankly, the foods that I used to love, saying no to those things. Now, the good news here is this very much gets easier in time, and what you feel is a sacrifice today, after 3 to 6 months of repetition, not even that long in some cases, thankfully, but in 3 to 6 months, let's be conservative about it, of repetition and consistency, you do actually get over that stuff. It's remarkable how much your taste buds actually change once you get yourself out of the behavioral routines of engaging with certain foods, and they don't feel as familiar and nostalgic to you in time because you're not eating those things. We're creatures of habit. So once you start making new healthy habits, you start to really latch on and create lots of associations with the new things, the grapes and the apples that you're now eating, watching Lord of the Rings in the evening versus the Ben & Jerry's cookie dough that you were eating just a few months ago, right? You replace all of those old associations and routines, and that's the good thing. That's the light at the end of the tunnel that I wish to show you if you're experiencing some of the negative feelings surrounding sacrifice and missing out. It doesn't stay that way, bottom line is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't stay that way forever. Just keep plugging away. Again, trust this process once again. It's completely normal at first to feel like you're missing out. This doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean the crash and burn is necessarily coming, but you just need to plow forward. And the way that you do this is with the reframe and the hope and the belief that, no, this changes in time. I won't always be an addict to these foods. I won't always fantasize about these foods if I keep going. The problem is when you don't say no and you still entertain these things and you're already half committed to the process of losing weight and health improvement, so you still kind of flirt with these foods or they come in and out of your diet. I'm a big believer that whilst you don't need to be perfect long term, and actually that can be, setting yourself up with really Puritan standards can lead to the crash and burn as well. But I'm a big believer that certainly in the short term, initially, if you've got lots of bad food habits right now, Abstinence really is the transformative process. And so just getting this stuff out your diet, saying no, even though everything in your body wants to still do the pizza, it still wants to eat some chocky, some popcorn, some greasy popcorn whilst you're watching Lord of the Rings. But saying no right now, wow, the way that this changes you, the things that you feel like will be a sacrifice, that's the beautiful thing, they don't actually last that long. You get used to it. Downside number 6 of losing weight, getting in killer shape, this is another social one. Like number 1 was, where you annoy a lot of your friends and family members, this is another taboo social thing that a lot of us experience when we're getting in really good shape, but we almost feel guilty for thinking about, or like it's conceited or arrogant, or like we're delusional for even noticing it. We can't help but notice it, but then we question ourselves, hey, is that actually real? Is this happening? Am I just being arrogant? Am I being egotistical? And we don't feel like we can confide with anyone about this because they might not get it, or again, they'll judge us for sounding arrogant or egotistical. But it's this, you could probably guess, receiving lots more attention. I don't necessarily mean romantic, but I think that probably is implied. Actually, that is the context that I'm going to talk about it in, so I guess I do mean it. But romantic attention. And now, don't get me wrong, this could be an upside to you as much as it is a downside, but implied here again, it's on our list of downsides. You might not always want it or always appreciate that you're receiving this attention, but here's what I'll say to you. It's normal. If you're receiving more looks, more people are checking you out, more men, ladies are hitting on you right now, yeah, guess what? You're getting hot. It's fine. It's not a bad thing. It happens. You might feel like it's a bad thing. You might even feel guilty about it. You're not, this is the reframe, you're not a bad person for receiving more attention. People look at beautiful things, whether it's nature, babies, cute dogs, or other people, and you don't even know why someone is checking you out necessarily, and it's probably arrogant to assume. Yes, some people will have romantic intentions, obviously, but you don't know why someone is checking you out, so never presume. Just acknowledge it. Okay, they looked at me, I looked back at them, I sometimes look at people too, but humans generally, we're fascinated by beautiful and interesting looking things. You've lost 30 pounds, you're in great shape, you're looking hot, you're carrying yourself with a little more pride and swagger because of all the work that you've done. You're getting fitter, you're fitting in clothes more nicely, your posture might be better. Again, you might carry yourself better too. There's some mental, psychological changes that come with the physical changes too that just add to your, not to sound too woo-woo, but energy, let's say, in social settings, and people can pick up on this. See, your skin is glowing, you got the leanness, the jawline's going, you got the little biceps, the little vein in the bicep. Yeah, you're hot, man. Get over it. People look at interesting, good-looking things, and that doesn't make you bad just because someone's checking you out. It doesn't mean you're entertaining it. It doesn't mean you're giving them your phone number. It doesn't mean that you're being unfaithful. Someone is just looking at you. You've done nothing wrong. And I think that's how you have to reframe it here, and also then do the devil's advocate of, well, let's not even presume that they're looking at me because of that. It might just be we caught eyes, it might just be, well, it's a social setting, it's natural they're looking this direction, Don't presume too much, keep your feet on the ground, as I say, don't get too egotistical, but at the same time, if you do notice that you think you're noticing a lot more people checking you out, it's very likely that you are, because you're hot and it's okay and it comes with the territory, and yeah, it doesn't say anything about you that you're a bad person or you're even entertaining it. And lastly, downside number 7 to losing weight, getting in your best shape ever, you may find in periods you have less energy. Again, this whole calorie deficit spiel, you are depriving your body of calories, in other words, energy that it needs or believes it deems that it needs, and so it's therefore attacking the stored body fat, but you're deficient in energy, in other words, until that stored body fat gets accessed and converted. But you're in a constant state every day of, if you're consistent at least, being in that calorie deficit, there's just less fuel, there's less energy in your glycogen stores to expend. And so, of course, this can lead to lots of feelings of tiredness and lethargy and fatigue day to day. And of course, there's lots of other reasons as to why you might be tired, you might be fatigued. It could be sleep related, could be something else, could be stress related. It's It's not to say it's only because of the calorie deficit or only nutrition or any feelings of tiredness are because you're in a calorie deficit, if you catch my drift. But this is an associated side effect with being in a calorie deficit, and it's totally normal. So if you do notice I'm a little bit more tired, feeling a little bit more fatigued than usual, yes, you can in many cases chalk it up to, well, this is part and parcel of this process of being in a fat loss phase, getting the weight off, etc., etc. Now, again, there's still lots you can do to protect your energy as best you can. We've got some overlapping solutions here, like with the hunger point in point number 4. Make sure your calorie deficit isn't too aggressive. Make sure you're still eating plenty of carbohydrates and you're not doing some god-awful keto, I need to be in ketosis nonsense, absolute drivel. So you've got those carbohydrates as your fuel source coming in. So even though you're in a calorie deficit, there's still plenty of glycogen in your system. And yeah, so there's lots you can do to finesse this, but yes, it's very likely compared to eating at calorie maintenance or of course in a surplus, that there's just a little bit less expendable energy in you. This is an interesting idea because I think, and maybe it slightly contrasts with some of your experiences losing weight, admittedly, because a lot of people will write to me and say, Ryan, my energy actually improved when I started fixing my nutrition and losing weight. I actually started getting better sleep. That helped my energy in turn as well. So there's a lot of people, I would presume, watching this saying, I don't really resonate with this one personally. I would suggest, respectfully, this is something that happens more towards, or you notice more towards the advanced stages of fat loss, or after very, very prolonged periods in a calorie deficit, where the glycogen stores are just being chipped away at. There isn't much stored body fat there anyway in reserve. And so as you start to get really, really lean, let's say you still, you still want to lose a couple more pounds, you're at the last 5 pound stage, but you are generally what most people would consider quite lean and fit looking. You know, this is kind of my territory, let's say, not to sound too braggadocious, but this is my area now. And that's when you notice, okay, this is when the energy really does take a knackering. And that's when you can consider things like refeed days. Again, ensuring that you're only running a really small, I keep saying this because it's an important point, a really small, not aggressive, not severe calorie deficit. You can even consider, some people can't do this very well in a controlled way, so with caution I advise this, but you can consider things like very brief diet breaks, having a week eating at maintenance calories, just putting a pause on fat loss at those more advanced stages and then going back into it to recover your energy a little bit, get that extra fuel, glycogen, extra bit of food, calories, in other words, therefore energy in your system, enjoy that for a couple of days and then back. Wow, I'm into my deficit again after a little energy top up. So there are things you can do, but I think maybe this could be argued that at the more advanced stage, you're going to notice more of these energy crashes, the tiredness, the fatigue, etc., etc. But again, my point being, this can all come with the territory of losing weight. It's not inherently a red flag that you've got a little bit less energy. Do take action if you've got really low energy levels, because it could be something else. And again, it could be a sign that the calorie deficit is too aggressive. So it's not to say, hey, ignore all signs of low energy completely and totally, but rather just to say, look, if there is a small, and that's down to interpretation, but if there seems to be a small drop in your energy when you're in a fat loss phase, it's kind of normal. You do need to a degree, suck it up, finesse what you can to ensure your energy is as good as it can be, protect it as best you can, but yeah, this comes with the territory. So those are my 7 biggest downsides of losing weight. Like I said at the start, it ain't all fun and games, but generally speaking, the pros massively outweigh all of these cons. But I wanted to run through this list, just normalize and validate some of this stuff for you guys, as you might be thinking, is this just happening to me? Am I the only one? So let me know in the comments down below which of these you've noticed, which of these particularly resonate, any of them that you want me to talk more on in the future. Happy to make videos on this subject if it seems to resonate with a lot of you. And of course, as always, if you want more help, support, and accountability to hold your feet to the fire whilst you're experiencing some of these more negative side effects of this whole process, so you can stay true to the path, stay focused, and lose a realistic and sustainable 4 to 8 pounds per month, all with, of course, our nutrition philosophy, following a realistic and balanced plant-based diet. If that interests you, if you want a little bit more help with that, you can check out now the very new, happy to announce, message only coaching tier in my Slim and Sustain program. I've pulled the coaching calls out to be able to reduce the rate, take back a little win-win because it take back a little bit of time for myself after doing 2,000 coaching calls, can you believe, over the last 5 to 6 years now. I want a little bit of my time back, a little bit of a break, so I feel it's only fair to reduce the price a little. Now we're pulling out the coaching calls. Same structure, same accountability, same one-on-one support from me personally. I don't do any outsourcing nonsense. Still the same highly personalized coaching program, just literally without the Zoom meetings. I've pulled those out. So if that interests you, click the link below, you fill out the form there. I'll send you all the details about this new message-only coaching tier. See you in the next video.